All right, here we go on this Thursday. Yes, let's go. My goodness. Folks, windy, cold out, but we are rolling. Big developments, excuse me, on this Thursday. We're going to begin. I believe the audio is strong. We're going to begin in two minutes. 2 minutes. Yes. As we are live now, we are going to have actually our legal expert, attorney Stephanie Murphy's actually going to join us tomorrow now. Tomorrow, but we certainly have quite a bit of news on this Thursday that we're going to get to in just a moment. So, yes, that's right, Bendy. Thank you. Here we go. And I believe, yep, she was in court. God, she's so atrocious. These criminals. Yes, this bill. Yep. Shannon, good afternoon. There's Cindy and Tammy. Yep. Go. Pete said, a good go. We're going to give just a moment. Oh. Okay, we'll try that. Let me try that one more time. Hi there. There's Dolo. Yes. Let me try that one. I like to have the image sometimes. Here we go. Okay. She was in court. We're going to talk about that. To start. And we are going to start, excuse me, in just, we're 1 minute out. That is exactly right, Debbie. There's Grandma Kim. Yep. Thank you very much, Bendy. Yes. Not saying much. We are going to begin. We are going to begin. And we are going to get to this story, which I think in many ways should be the lead story. We've been trying to lead on this quite a bit. Folks, this portion of our program, though, let me, right now at 106, we are live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. But wait, there's more. Now, we're also live on our X page, on YouTube, and also on Facebook. Remember, on Facebook, you can, in fact, share that you are watching. There is this just has captivated at least our audience. The rest of the media want to say she's a victim, nothing to see here. But I want to remind you, folks, this portion of the program brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Yes, and everything Christmas with Steve and Debbie and Junior and Byron and Lauren at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They have everything. Freesia fir trees, balsam trees, potted live trees, custom handmade wreaths, 10 to 60 inches in size. They also have Christmas swag, hanging baskets, and more. Florist quality poinsettias. They also have mistletoe, roping, cut greens, hanging baskets, decorative pots, and cemetery baskets. Christmas crafts. That makes a great gift. One thing about a Christmas craft, give that as a gift. They'll use at least once a year, and more people are decorating earlier. So, Christmas decorations are really starting to become Thanksgiving through the season. You give a nice Christmas gift, Christmas unique, original Christmas craft as a gift to someone, they're going to end up using it for at least 7 to almost 8 weeks of the year. They're open every single day. Look for the next day off is Christmas Day. Look for them on Facebook. They want to thank everyone, all of their loyal and new customers. This has been the best year they've ever had. I'm so thrilled for them. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Well, folks, you see, for those that are watching, you see details on depetro.com. and you can check it out. And DePietro.com, which is brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Maybe you're having a last-minute holiday gathering. They can handle a large group. The Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, lunch, dinner. They have a great chef's menu. There's something on the menu for everyone at the Coesit Inn. And don't forget now, they also have the coffee at Coesit. But the Coesit Inn, if suddenly you have a group of 15 to 20 people, now, a lot of restaurants would say, oh, my goodness, we can't handle a group of 15 to 20 people. The Coesit Inn can. They can. We were in there it was a couple Saturdays ago, Saturday before Thanksgiving, I think, and you had several large groups while we're just in the dining room area. Remember, perfect for a holiday gathering. You get a big group. You want to be able to go sit, have some drinks in the lounge or a nice dinner. They have it all at the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue in West Warwick. So we will get to big developments with the Brian Walshe case, but I do want to start off. There she is, Hopkinton woman accused, fatally hitting the man, Hope Valley, ordered held without bail. More than 100 prior arrests, ordered held without bail. Shannon Godbout, hitting and killing 70-year-old Rory McLeod. This past weekend, he was out walking his dog. Court records indicate her criminal record extends decades beyond that. According to prosecutors, Shannon Godbout, there she is, has been arrested 102 times and failed to appear in court more than 6 dozen times. 6 dozen, not 6 times. 6 times 12. True, most of the previous charges had been misdemeanors or, quote, non-violent felonies. She's being held without bail. It's going to go through Superior Court. She appeared without an attorney, only accompanied by a friend of the court. We won't mention who that is or if the friend is a member of the media. I have heard that as well, that she is friendly with a female member of the media. I won't say who, not going to mention a name, but have heard female member of the media, been trying to work with her and a family. From what I understand, that individual is friendly with the family, not necessarily her, but who I will not identify what platform this individual uses, but that's what I have been told. It's kind of out there right now. So she was arraigned charges of driving to endanger resulting in death, possession of narcotics with intent to deliver, ordered held without bail. She was driving her car 7:30 in the morning, allegedly went off the road, crashed into the 70-year-old Grammy-nominated musician of Roomful of Blues. 7:30 in the morning, he's out walking his dog. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. She takes out 2 utility poles and runs him over. He was known as Rory, rushed to the hospital, later died. He was inducted into the Rhode Island Music Hall of Fame 2012. Remember the Grammy-nominated band Roomful of Blues. While investigating the scene, police said she was found to be in possession of numerous illegal narcotics packaging materials commonly associated with drug distribution. Now, this is so heinous, and I want to also touch on some different aspects of this. I know is the fact that, and I can't stress this enough, and I'm going to tie it in with the news as far as the Brian Walshe trial as well. So, but this particular individual, I believe, first of all, no, I don't find her or think of her as a victim, as some people have tried to say. You know, this is someone who she was, her, what was the message? She's hurting. Her family is hurting. And she, as someone sent me a message, don't you understand what the word addiction means? I am familiar with that term. I think it's too many times, I believe that people toss that around almost as a little bit of a kind of an excuse, a little bit of as a way to not take any type of accountability for their actions. And because we have heard this, you have someone that has a drinking problem, and I recognize that people can have a drinking problem, but you get the people that say, don't you understand what part? It's a disease. Don't you understand that? What part of that don't you understand? This is someone who, and you hear that from people. She's hurting. Her family is hurting. Well, right now, I believe all sympathy should be with the person whose life she took. I mean, that's the person who is truly hurting in this whole thing, not particularly Shannon. Now, again, if you check out DePietro.com, she has that certificate that she completed a program. And what is her quote? We have it right on the website. I am never going back to the ACI. I am on the straight and narrow. Well, clearly not. And as I've also pointed out, I believe I still don't hear anyone mentioning that, and I believe this. If I held elected office, granted I don't, I'm not an elected official, but I believe the penalties should be much harsher for anyone that continues to violate the law. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, especially in the part that I zero in on is the number of times that she was driving with a suspended license. 10 times. Driving with a suspended license. Now, I believe that is a penalty that they should zoom in on because, and I want to stress that again, more than 10 times driving with a suspended license. Because let's just be very clear about this particular situation. If you take away, if she's not behind the wheel, if she doesn't have access to a car, if instead of 10 times driving, maybe she should have been incarcerated. If you get caught driving on a suspended license more than 4 times, you are incarcerated at the ACI. That's it. If you come out and you again get caught driving on a suspended license, you were again incarcerated, this time longer. That's the element that is, to me, the key ingredient with this story that is not being emphasized enough. As far as the shoplifting, okay, the shoplifting, in many ways, that's between her and the store. Where this story, to me, involves all of us is the part where she still has access to a vehicle and gets behind the wheel of this particular vehicle, where she essentially ran him over and then took out these 2 poles. So that is when, and I think it really needs to drill down. The vehicle is a weapon. Ask Officer the late John O'Keefe how that can go. A vehicle can be used as a weapon. There was a situation in Woonsocket, not this year, I think it was last year, and the guy was arrested. He fled. They were trying to find him. I think they found him in Connecticut, Woonsocket police, but he purposely ran someone over. I don't think that's I don't think that is highlighted enough. Our laws, they're very tough on obviously, I don't think based on her criminal record, hear me out now, but I don't think based on her criminal record that they would allow her to possess a firearm. But she did get access to a vehicle. I think I would like to see where they start to treat a vehicle much like what it can be, which is a weapon. If she didn't have access to that vehicle, that man would be alive. The telephone poles can be repaired, but that is clearly 7:30 in the morning. Someone on the road, seemingly high as a kite, and now they want to hold her without bail. Now they want to hold her without bail. I come back to, well, she's a mother and she lives in Hopkinton and you can't survive without a car. Guess what? Not our problem. She's the one with the problem, not us. That could have been, now see, to me, this is one of those incidents where this happened to be Rory. This could have been anyone. This could have been, think of anyone else on that road walking along, or it could have been a young family in a vehicle. This is someone so out of their mind that just happened to run into him in these telephone poles. And I have a problem with some of her defenders out there. So, this is an accident. And don't you understand this woman has a drug problem? And you get this, and I want to, it kind of ties into me a little bit with the Brian Walshe case, where he is not going to take the stand. He's not going to testify. But I want to just, we have, especially in this state, we are creating, everyone's a perpetual victim. Everyone's a victim. This woman has prior to this was portrayed as a victim. It's not her fault she's addicted to drugs. Think about that. Think of in your own life, there were people that said, I can't go drinking today. I need to go to work. And then there were people that said, yeah, what time's the liquor store open? There were people when offered certain drugs said, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to experiment with heroin. Then there were people that say, I'm in. So this business of, they try to treat it like she's just a puppet. And her defenders out there, that could, there before, don't judge. What do we hear from? I really mean it's a mindset. In Rhode Island, there is what we need, and I'm just going to talk about Rhode Island for a moment, but it's a mindset change. And I think we need a leader where there'd be a mindset change. See, to me, it just ties into this larger picture where everyone's a perpetual victim. Anything that goes wrong is seen almost as if an unavoidable act of God. And I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. This portion of the program, though, folks, don't forget Propane Plus. Call them today, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. All your heating and cooling, they're online 24/7. It's propane.com. I also want to just touch on, we're not turning into a celebrity. I hear from people, don't show her picture. You're making her famous. That's not what this is. We are highlighting who is responsible for this. Let me go to a larger point here. On the anniversary of the closing of the Washington Bridge, if you were to listen to Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, what happened with the bridge, it was an act of God. No one's been fired. No one's been terminated. No one's been demoted. No one has lost a cent. They act like it was as if a bolt of lightning came down and struck the bridge. And we all know and realize that's not what happened. But look at the way they go after the ICE agents. How dare they go after people that are not supposed to be here, who are wanted for crimes in this country, some of them wanted for crimes in their own country. But there's no accountability on the person that made the calculated decision to come into our state and country illegally. None. And the progressives and the people in Smith Hill, these are people from war-torn countries. War-torn countries? Guatemala is a war-torn country? I don't think so. There's no war going on in Guatemala. There are people that were told, you can come here and face no repercussions. And the schools are free and the emergency rooms are free. So I played on the radio show an interesting, Stephen Miller's been making the rounds. He's a senior advisor to the president. And he talked about in blue states, they never break out. What would be the test scores if you take the illegal aliens out of the public schools, meaning their test results, how they perform on tests? What's the hospital emergency rooms be like if you didn't have all these non-English speaking people showing up there with no health insurance? In the blue states like Rhode Island, Mass, Connecticut, they never want to break that out. Everyone talks about the failing Providence public schools. But I'll say this, how do you run a classroom when you have all these English as a second language learners? Kids showing up to school and their parents don't speak English. My point is, I'm not saying they can ultimately, they could, but they won't prevent it. But they don't even try to show the scores of what it would look like. You know, those people, the illegals, they're treated as if they were kidnapped from their home countries, whether it's Liberia or Guatemala or Colombia or Honduras, and they were kidnapped and brought to Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls. Now they're just prisoners here trying to make, I mean, we all know that's not what's going on. But staying with this woman, the business of letting her drive, I think that should be more of a deterrent. And I've talked about, I think our laws are far too lenient on drunk drivers, far too lenient. Rhode Island, if they wanted to now, Rhode Island could be the toughest in the nation on drunk driving. They prefer to be the opposite. We're about in the middle. I looked into this when Olivia Passaretti was killed. And Rhode Island's not 50th, but we're more like in the mid 30s as far as tough on drunk driving. It's about, I think what I remember was Rhode Island's either ranked 35 or 36, somewhere in there. There are some states like Idaho, Wyoming, you can ride with an open container. I mean, we don't have things like that. But as I have talked about, to me, there are states that just do more preventive measures, like Connecticut. Connecticut's neighboring state, much tougher on drunk drivers than Rhode Island because it's more preventive. But this woman, you know, where are all the people that were congratulating her? Where are all the people that let her go? Where are the judges that said, we're going to let her go? And now here's the end result. And still no comment from any of the legislators. I wonder what would be the reaction if we totally spitballing here, but put a red "Make America Great Again" hat on her, and now make, instead of a musician from Room Full of Blues, instead the person walking, have them related to a high-profile union person or a legislator at the State House. Well, then, right now, if that happened, there'd be the ongoing press conference of Governor McKee, Matt Dose, Seth Magaziner, and so on. We got to change the law, but we are, you, all of us are seen as expendable to the dangerous Wild Wild West attitude state that they set up. It is a state of welfare. It is a state of no accountability. How else do you explain? You have, 7 to 9 PC kids overdoses. And what's the reaction of Governor McKee? Well, they should have taken the cocaine down to the safe injection center and gotten it tested. Well, gee, here's a thought. Maybe we shouldn't have so much cocaine spiked with fentanyl flowing through the streets. How about that? They should have taken it to his center and had it tested. Okay, I guess that's one way to look at it. Or another way would be, why do we have all this fentanyl spiked drugs flowing through our streets and cities and towns that are killing all these young people? We know what the answers are because of the open borders that his favorite president, never forget, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee said, President Biden is the greatest president Rhode Island has ever seen. I know that's hard to believe, but he did say it. And don't forget, Matos was on the campaign trail, lieutenant governor, because she was then going to try to get a position within the Harris administration. How'd that work out? Not very well. Now, I do want to talk about the Brian Walshe case because to me it ties in a little bit. Not everyone's going to get it. But, folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by ServPro of Providence. Remember, when disaster strikes, excuse me, I apologize, folks. I don't have a cough. A little bit of dryness being inside. ServPro of Providence. Call them 401 941 5500. When disaster strikes, if you have a fire, if you have a fire, you're going to have fire damage. Let's just talk about a business or home. Fire damage. Then you're going to have smoke damage. Then you're also going to have water damage because they have to put out the fire. And then many times mold. So as far as ServPro of Providence, 401 941 5500, 401 941 5500, ServPro of Providence. Now, as far as Brian Walshe, he has elected, this is the murder trial taking place in Dedham in Massachusetts, where he's admitted that he disposed of his wife's body and dismembered his wife's body, Anna. Now, a couple things about that. I've seen some legal experts, and they're kind of thrown. One of them that I had appeared on Court TV and said, I'm thrown. I can't believe the guy's not going to take the stand. Apparently, they were all predicting he was going to take the stand, and they were trying to say that he was going to take the stand. With Brian Walshe, at what point do people finally look at this individual and say, this is a psychopath? One of the things about today's day and age, and especially where we live, to me, it kind of ties in with, and I know some people won't get this, but it ties into this attitude of don't judge. Don't judge. She has her, quote, demons, not problems, not she's irresponsible, not that she needs to get her life together. She has demons. She's fighting her demons. With Brian Walshe is a psychopath killer who very violently killed his wife. But we've fallen into this attitude. No one wants to use the word crazy anymore. Oh, that's, you don't want to call them that. Kind of reminds me of Mayor Lorza made the police stop referring to gang members as gang members. I remember I was at a press conference and I asked about a gang-related shooting. And he said, we don't use that term. They're just individuals that gather. No, you don't want to leave. That was also Matos on the city council. You don't want to call anyone a gang member. That's too labeling. Let's just call them individuals that interact. Okay, or we could call them what they are, which is gang members, which is a gang member mentality. So we have to stop this politically correct notion that everybody's a victim and people fight their demons. And who are you to judge? And you don't judge people. And don't you realize she feels terrible about what happened? Don't you realize that she's been struggling? With Brian Walshe, he is a complete nutcase, and it's okay to say that. It's the Brian Walshe case to me. It's a hard truth. What he did, I completely agree with what he did is so egregious and disturbing that he would do that, but he did it. He has that mindset. I am not surprised he didn't take the stand. He is a coward. He is a pathological nut job, psycho killer, but also at his core, a coward. So this business that he was going to take the stand, I won't say who, but I saw in a Boston legal expert who I've appeared with saying, I am stunned he didn't as if he's going to get up there and give a rational explanation, Brian Walshe, of why he dismembered his wife. We've almost become, in some ways, like this isn't even a complicated case. I think in some ways the media has bought into this whole notion that in Massachusetts, the state police are incompetent and they're all corrupt and they're going to blow this case. And this case it's frightening. It's very frightening. It's hard to imagine that the guy sitting there committed the act that he did. And as I've stated, you watch when the jury comes back with the guilty verdict, unless we get another ridiculous jury. So unless they come back with a ridiculous verdict, which I don't think is going to happen, what is so troubling that I've seen some of the coverage, people almost seem thrown on how to describe how calm he is in the right lows. He's buying all these things with a shot. He's buying a hex, and it's so gruesome. It is, and it's evil. And there's certain people that almost expect, like I saw one of the comments, I'm shocked he's not going to get up on the stand to give an explanation. There is no explanation. He can't rationalize it. This is someone who when he convinced Anna Walshe to marry him and have children with him, he hit the jackpot. That was the high point. And then the wheel's been coming off ever since. Maybe that's the reason he then committed the art forgery. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is it's okay to say, listen, he is completely nuts. He's not a victim. He created this. It's atrocious. He's going to get up there and explain what happened. Explain what happened. There is no explanation. He killed her. Terrible. Unimaginable. And then very calculating. Dismembered her and got rid of the body. And thought he was going to get away with it. That man that was on the stand who was I found him to be very generous and genuine. Jem, who was a family friend, I thought it was very telling when he realized he had actually been lured to the New Year's Eve dinner as an alibi. As Brian Walshe, the friend said, it seemed odd that she suddenly left on New Year's Day. Brian, where's Anna? Oh, she had a work emergency, had to go back to D.C. She works in commercial real estate, a work emergency on New Year's Day, and she had to leave at 6:30 in the morning. I left your house at 1:30. What work emergency could have happened that she would have, I have to go back to D.C.? And then he said to Brian Walshe, did you guys have a fight or something? And he said, of course not. You were sitting right there, and you could testify that the mood was jovial. I mean, that's very calculating. The Google searches are calculating. But my point is, it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. He is a savage lunatic who actually should forfeit his right to breathe on this planet. Now, obviously, Massachusetts is not a death penalty case. The death penalty has a lot of things wrong with it. So the death penalty, you still have the Boston bomber. If you go after the death penalty in certain states, unless seemingly you're in like a Texas or Florida or a state like that, it's an uphill climb. Look at Scott Peterson in California. Do I think the evidence is credible? The evidence is credible. Someone calmly shopping in Lowe's for tools like drop cloths and a hacksaw and garbage bags, and he's on video disposing of those garbage bags, and there's an iPad of searches early in the morning, how to dismember a body. Can you collect insurance without a body? Here was another Google search. Can you be charged with murder if they don't find a body? Do I find that evidence credible? She's no longer here. She never got in an Uber to go to Logan. He was the last one to see her alive. Never underestimate the last person to see someone alive. Her DNA was found on the hacksaw. Some of her blood was found in the house. There's other things that go along with it. Do I find the evidence credible? I don't want to get too far distracted by such a question, but you have to look into, so in other words, let's play this out. The 6-year-old son, he was the one at 4:30 in the morning Googling how to dispose of a body, how to dismember a body. So the 6-year-old son was Googling best states to get divorced in. Can you be charged with murder if they can't find the body? Can you collect a life insurance policy without a body? Do we know exactly how he took the life of Anna Walshe? No, we don't. And I don't believe we need to. As I have stated, I believe he somehow got her to the basement. You did have 3 boys, young boys, sleeping in the house. And the young one, at the time, I think was 6. I mean, they were all a little bit older, but, you know, I don't think he would have taken a chance if they did it in the kitchen. I don't know, but in the kitchen or the dining room, or I believe that lured her somehow or got her to the basement and then took her life there. So, but let me just address that. Is there credible evidence? There's no credible evidence that it could have been anyone else. I don't even know where something like that would go. I want to address this because this is interesting to me. But I want to remind you, this portion of the program is brought to you by Watson Materials. Call Watson Materials today. Get a free quote, 401-885-0600. 401-885-0600. Watson Materials. Call them for landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, decorative stone. Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. I want to address, and this is something that I don't blame people for asking questions, but I think some people have a misconception of, and we saw this in the trial in the spring, but the element of reasonable doubt, and a good example of that. All right, a couple of things. Is Anna Walshe alive? She hasn't been seen since her friend left that house at 1:30 in the morning on then New Year's Day. So dinner on New Year's Eve, he leaves the house at 1:30. She's never been seen again. So she's not hiding somewhere. She didn't run off. There was no trace of a ride share. There's all those cameras. She didn't run off with someone. There's no evidence of that. There's also no evidence that someone broke into the home. Through his defense attorneys, they claim that he was finishing the dishes. He came upstairs and she was already deceased in the bed. But as far as reasonable doubt, I think some people, and I'm not chastising anyone, and I'm not trying to embarrass anyone, but I think some people have a misconception of that, which is a good example that they often mention. And those of you that follow a lot of these trials, I think, will be nodding along. But you have the classic is they say someone goes to sleep at 10 o'clock. You wake up the next morning, there's snow on the ground. Did you see it snow? You did not. You were sleeping. Did you check the forecast? Maybe you didn't know it was going to snow. You got up and there's snow on the ground. It'd be very reasonable to say it must have snowed overnight. There's an inch of snow on the ground. It's no longer snowing. Reasonable doubt would not be, well, I can't prove that it snowed overnight. Therefore, you have to vote not guilty. That's not reasonable doubt. It's very reasonable. You don't know exactly. You don't know what time it started. You don't know how much. You don't know where the storm came from. You don't even know beyond your vision how far it went. Did it go, did it just hit your town? Did it hit, elsewhere? Sometimes you drive, especially in Rhode Island, sometimes it could snow inland. Then you drive to places like Newport, Narragansett, and they have no snow. So you don't know that. All you know is when you went to bed at 10 o'clock, there was no snow. You wake up and there's snow on the ground. So the element of reasonable doubt with some people, you would have to vote not guilty because you actually didn't see it snow. And we know that that's not what it's reasonable doubt, not doubt. Could there have been some kind of atmospheric explosion, a comet, and then white dust came down? Could it have been a plane crash? Possible, but then you would investigate and realize, okay, there's snow everywhere. And there was no plane crash. So I went outside and that's what it is. The other example they give is you're in a room, there's someone sitting behind you. And suddenly there's a cup of water on the floor. Now, you didn't see the person knock over the water, but there was a cup of water, your back was turned, and suddenly the water's on the floor. So absent of an earthquake, window open, or anyone else entering the room, that person knocked over the water. It is a misconception to believe, well, unless you saw them knock over the water, you can't convict him on that. That's not accurate. So with the Anna Brian Walshe case, do we know the exact manner of death? No, other than there was a lot of blood on the rug. I could be wrong. Maybe he did kill her upstairs. We know he dismembered her there's a room down in the basement that actually is like a little room with a door, wherever. Maybe it's like near where the furnace is. So I believe that in fact, he lured her down there, but there's no other explanation, reasonable explanation of what could have happened. So we are, and I want to stay on schedule here, but we have become where there are these people that float out conspiracies. And I find it, I don't like conspiracies. I think it's very dangerous. I think it's very damaging. I think so much of it is nonsense. I'm going to give an example in just a moment. But this portion of the program is brought to you by, now remember, Kids Club on the Pike. Whether it's for a holiday gathering, Christmas party, for children now. You want to have a party for children. Maybe you want to book a party between Christmas and New Year's. Or maybe you want to have some kind of children gathering at Kids Club on the Pike. You could book out the entire venue, but they also do before and after school care and preschool. Kids Club on the Pike. They're located right on Plainfield Pike. Call them at 401-443-5336. Kids Club on the Pike. And they also have a new location in Warwick. But Kids Club on the Pike is right on Plainfield Pike on the Cranston-Johnson line. It's Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. I also want to touch on, there's two individuals right now that I think that it's very damaging what they're doing. And it's all conspiracy nonsense. And those two people are Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. And I have, I think I've definitely met Tucker many years ago. I was a fan of his show when he was on Fox. But let's just stick with Candace Owens from Tucker right now. He floats out these conspiracies, these wild conspiracies, and then says, hey, I'm just a guy asking questions. But Candace Owens, it's really remarkable what's happening right now. And I know she has supporters. And I know she has followers and fans that just go along with the whole thing. And she keeps, I have solved it. And where do you see what's coming up? And like I've said, so much of what Candace Owens does, so destructive, is it's like the guy walking around with the signboard in Times Square that says the world will end tomorrow. And you see him on a Wednesday. He's walking around with the sign, the world will end tomorrow. And you see him Thursday and then Friday. And then finally on Saturday, you say, I saw you here yesterday with that sign. And he said, I know. I'm saying it's going to end tomorrow. Don't you understand that tomorrow never arrives? But Erica Kirk, who I think is just an absolute star, I knew nothing about her until Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Erica Kirk had to go on, by the way, Saturday night, she's hosting a town hall meeting with CBS on CBS. I think it's going to be blockbuster ratings. I think if CBS was smart, they would sign her. I think she's very talented. She's a great communicator. She's highly likable. The camera loves her. She is very engaging. She's very compelling to listen to. Erica Kirk is a unique individual. But the fact that she had to go on Fox yesterday afternoon and come out and dispel that Candace Owens, and not alone, and Tucker Carlson, that they are putting out rumors, putting it out there, that somehow Charlie Kirk, that Erica Kirk was mixed up with the assassination, that the people at Turning Point are behind it. Candace Owens has said that Charlie Kirk told her in a dream that he was betrayed by those around him. Candace Owens has tried to involve Israel with him being assassinated. Candace Owens has made claims that our government, our military was involved with his assassination. Now she's trying to say France is involved with his assassination. There's something wrong that Erica Kirk has to go on national television and say, please stop doing this. The people that I work with at Turning Point are getting death threats. What you're saying, I think Candace Owens is heading the way of Alex Jones. I mean, this is, I believe she may end up getting deplatformed by YouTube. And I want to be very clear. That's not free speech. That's not free speech. Alex Jones tried to argue that with Sandy Hook, of which the anniversary is coming up. Alex Jones went on and was saying that it was all fake. The shooting in Connecticut was all fake. Those were all crisis actors. The parents of the children were all actors. It never happened. And he lost everything. And that's not freedom of speech. That's yelling fire in a crowded theater. Candace Owens, this is not freedom of speech. Accusing people of assassination and murder, accusing the wife of being part of it, accusing the people he works with of being part of it. These people are getting threats. These people have people coming after them because of that. That is not freedom of speech. That is not. I reject this element of like Tucker. Hey, I'm just the guy asking. No, you're fanning the flames of conspiracy. Now, I don't. This business, Tucker. You can't trust the FBI anymore. I mean, it's so beyond. It's so preposterous. And Candace Owens mapping out who's this person on the phone and who's this person, and Egyptian jets are following her, and he was betrayed by the people around him, and it came to me in a dream, and he talked to me. Like, this is absurdville. But there's a lot of nuts out there. I mean, I saw the stuff that she's encouraging people to do, and the people in her chat. Do you realize as a result of Alex Jones, there were people, think about this for a moment, because of Alex Jones, Alex Jones saying that Sandy Hook was fake, they were crisis actors. Do you know that there are individuals that would go to the cemeteries in Connecticut, find where those little children were buried, film themselves relieving themselves on the graves, and then send the video to the parents and threaten the parents that they were going to exhume the bodies, or challenging the parents. If you want to prove this once and for all, you need to exhume the body, as if it wasn't painful enough burying a 6-year-old. You need to prove that. Like, it's so beyond the pale. These people, this is complete insanity. And Candace Owens is doing this right now. You watch, that's the level it's going to get to. Candace Owens saying to Erica Kirk, well, then you need to prove to me, where is he buried? And I think he's alive. Charlie Kirk, even though we all watched what happened. We've seen the video, or most people have. And you have someone like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. The only thing they could do would be to exhume the body to prove to us that Charlie's right. Like, it's so absurd. I think it was a solid investigation. They have the rifle of the grandfather. We have the transgender individual. The kid had gone on hunting trips to Alaska with the father. He knew how to handle a firearm. I mean, I don't think there's any mystery. You could look at any crime, and then if you want to, try to link different things. But we are in dangerous territory, to me, when someone like Erica Kirk, herself, her children are being threatened by the followers of Candace Owens, and people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson fanning the flames of conspiracy that somehow Israel's involved, somehow he was betrayed by those around him, that she was in on it. It is just absolute Looneyville. I don't know where it's going to. I just don't know where that's going to go. Where the out is here. Where's the off ramp? Other than it's very destructive. The people that follow, and I went into, yesterday, I actually watched some of her chat. Those people are nuts. And she's making millions of dollars by doing this. To me, it's another Alex Jones. So, and I fully get there are some people that they want to believe that Sandy Hook was fake. They want to believe that, but it wasn't. As one of the parents said at the trial to Alex Jones, what happened in Newtown at Sandy Hook it's a hard truth. It's horrible what went on. And those little children and the teachers, having them hide in a bathroom, and a bunch of them crowded in, little tiny children. It's hard to, I think the reason why people want to believe the conspiracy that it's fake is probably because the truth it's too difficult to comprehend that a person would do that to innocent little children. So much like Brian Walshe, it's reality is so frightening. I think some people are more comfortable with he couldn't have done it, or it's got to be fake, because they don't finish the sentence, but the sentence would be because no logical, normal person would commit such an act. It's so atrocious. Folks, this portion of the program, now it may be too late, but give them a call. Find out. J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. Hey, it would be great Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Hanukkah, whenever a loved one opens the card, it says your driveway's going to be paved. Maybe it won't be till spring. Get on the list now. Find out. Free estimate. High quality, fair pricing. Letter J, J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730. Letter J. It's J. Perry Paving. And remember, no one has a better package for veterans than J. Perry Paving. Give them a call today at 401-732-1730. To be very clear, I realize there are some people that just drink the Kool-Aid and go along with it. And these people are disturbed. These people are very, very disturbed. And what is playing out right now with Candace Owens and Erica Kirk, and I'm going to put Tucker Carlson in that category. See, to me, to me, this is about power. Erica Kirk now actually has a larger platform, and it's about power. She is a draw. Erica Kirk will actually be a bigger draw than her husband, Charlie Kirk, ever was or ever could be. And I believe that's why Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are trying to knock her back down. It's a vicious power grab, and they're willing to do anything to try to reel her in, even to the point. And I get there are some people that say, I like Candace Owens, and I like what she says, and I agree with her, and she is creating just the fact, as I said, the fact that Erica Kirk had to go on television and ask the people and condemn the conspiracy notions out there. The fact that there are young people that work at Turning Point that are getting death threats from people because Candace Owens is out there saying that Charlie Kirk was betrayed and is a conspiracy and was betrayed by those around him, including, as Candace Owens says, those closest to him. That is Looneyville. I'm telling you right now, there's something wrong with you if you actually believe that. There's no evidence to support that. All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. If you listen to the radio, stay tuned for the top of the hour news.